So when I started to reflect on it, remember, I had this manuscript that I was halfway done with. I'd only written 1,500 words. I wasn't making progress despite doing all the things. I asked myself, all right, Eric, what are you afraid of? What are you sort of so nervous about that's having you seek distraction? And so I thought on a lot. I thought, like, what was going on with me? And it came down to this. I was afraid that the book professor, the guy who teaches people how to write books, wouldn't write a very good book. I was afraid. I was insecure that the book I was going to write, people weren't going to like. And I kept seeing this image in my head. This group of a whole bunch of people, there's an audience out there, and they're like kind of staring at me saying, oh, Eric, thought you'd do better than this. And again, it started to eat at me. And again, I wasn't verbalizing this, I wasn't saying it, but that was what was going on. And so the reality was, for me, my internal trigger was an element of insecurity. I was insecure about what I was doing, that it wasn't good enough, that people weren't going to like it. And so what I was doing is I was looking at this sort of thing and, again, seeking distraction. So it was this guy who had the internal trigger, but again, it was easy to blame the other things that's going on around us. And so here's what started to happen to me as you sort of see how this plays out. And again, I share all this with you because all of you will sort of experience some of these things. This is what happens. Something sort of goes on in your head. This is a graph from Near that he put together that talks about internal triggers and external triggers and how it can lead us to distraction or indistraction, or sort of distraction or traction, these sorts of ways. And so what was happening to me is that I was getting in my own head. These internal triggers were triggering me. They were kind of getting me to think about sort of these things I was nervous about. And it was pulling me into these sort of external triggers, these other things, and then that was pulling me towards distraction. Again, what was happening is what was going on inside my head would lead me to find actions that pulled me away from my goal. That's what it was doing. That's what was happening. And so essentially what was happening is I was afraid that this guy who helps people do books all the time wasn't going to write a very good book. And so I let myself become distracted. All right? So I let myself become distracted. It wasn't these phones and the social media distracting me. I was letting myself do it. These internal triggers were the things that were helping us do it. And so as you think about it, again, the core thing to understand is that as you're writing a book, all of us are going to go through these things. You're going to find yourself in a pattern of distraction. Find yourself in a pattern of writer's block. Find yourself in a place where you're not making progress towards it. And it's super easy to blame social media, blame your phone, blame you being busy. But the reality is we don't oftentimes stop and sit down and ask, why am I letting myself get distracted? Now, this is a big thing, right? When you hear these sorts of things, you see it, because again, it's very easy. We do this in school all the time. We think about these sorts of things. And so it's one of those moments for me, I was like, whoa, that's deep. Like, how do I actually process this a little bit? So the core thing to understand, not is that like this is bad or whatever it is just is. This is the reality that all of us face with, is what do we do about it? So how do we actually deal with this? Because again, you're going to meet your editors this week, and they're going to be talking to you, and you're going to say, yeah, listen, I'm going to plan to write this week. And what's going to happen is that you get distracted, you don't write. And when you get on the phone with them and they say, hey, what happened? Like, I thought you were going to write this week. And you say, oh yeah, I was really busy this week. I was really busy this week. Well, really busy. Were you really busy this week, or is there something else going on?